Good evening, everyone. First of all, let me thanks for inviting and giving me this opportunity to Kim Yong Su, and also I express my heartiest respect to the founder of this center, Most Venerable Subul S님. Yes. I thought maybe many students from Dongguk University will attend this Dharma talk programs. Actually, when Mr. Kim Yong Su requested me for this program at the time, I thought because in Korea there are many famous Zen masters, and they give good teachings in Korean Buddhism and Korean Song, Zen meditation. So maybe why not I choose one of the topic that's related to my practice when I was in India. Though I am a Korean monk here for more than 10 years now, because I was in India then. At the time also I was ordained, as he introduced you, in 1991, and practiced as a Theravada monk. So we know there are many ways of practice to attain happiness, or what we say in Buddhism, this enlightenment. So Buddha has during his time actually given to many of his students, to the monks, many different kind of topics that suits to their temperaments and suit to their way of practice. So, though we know nowadays there is sun meditation or Zen meditation, Vipassana meditation, breathing meditations like that, but actually if we go deep into the Buddhist texts, we see many different kinds of practice. Of course, it's Buddha's because of he was fully enlightened, he know what topic will be suited to a particular person, particular practitioners, and according to the suitability of the person, he has given different topics of practice. But nowadays we just choose 2-3 different kinds and adopt one from them. So the topic today I am going to discuss is about the loving kindness meditation. What is called cultivation of loving kindness in English. This is originally in Pali language is metta bhavana. Metta is best translated in English as loving kindness. Bhavana is cultivation or meditation. So there is one sutra who is very famous in the Theravada countries. Almost in every ceremonies they used to recite. Also in important occasions, monks go and recite the sutra. for the sometimes protection of household pupils, also for the teachings. So that sutra's name is Karaniya Metta Sutra. It's almost like just we recited in English, Prajna Paramita Sutra in Mahayana Buddhism. So in Theravada countries, this is almost same as popular as the Prajna Paramita Sutra. I think I have to talk for 1 hour or what is that? It's for 1 hour. I don't know where is the. Oh yes, I guess. So right at 3 I have to finish or what was it? Yes. 3. It's okay. Yeah. So before going to the main topics, let me say that what actually all, not just human beings, but all living beings, those who have the sense, we want actually happiness. We want happiness. We try to become happy. We try to become happy, everyone. We don't want any suffering, right? From the core of our beings, we want to be contented and we want to be happy. So we see all our activities, all our efforts we do to just become more happy or to attain happiness. So maybe you come today is also in more or less, in the deep in your heart, you want some more happiness or to know something. Yeah. So our main purpose we live, we want to become more happy, So we practice also because we want to become more happy. But sometimes it's important to know or discover what will bring us, what things will give us the greatest happiness. So to go deep in, we see how happiness begins and from where happiness starts. We see we can divide happiness or even suffering also in 2 different kinds. Sometimes, especially mental and physical. Physically also we want to be more comfortable, more happy, and mentally our mind want to be more contented, more in peace, more in calm, or like that. But physical necessities or physical comfort sometimes we see play a very secondary role. If the body is if physically we are a little bit fit or we are not very much of suffering some things, then we just ignore, and we see our mental states play more role to become happy or unhappy. So we need to try to find out the causes, what leads us to be more happy that are in our mind, and what leads us to to become uncontented, suffering, and happiness. So if we can recognize the causes of some mental states that give us trouble, disturbances. Suppose if we become angry, if we are greedy, this kind of things we regard in Buddhism as negative forces of the mind. So as soon as we become angry or as soon as we have some negative forces in our mind, we see we are going towards unhappiness. And the positive forces, in the same way, when we have some friendly feelings or loving kindness or compassion, pillow feelings like that, then that leads us to become more happy. So if we can recognize that things, so then our effort should be, our duty should be to uproot or eliminate that kind of all kinds of defilements from the mind, the negative forces from the mind that causes us more suffering, and to develop or cultivate the positive elements, positive forces. We say in Pali 4 Brahma Viharas, that is called loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity, which leads us more positive attitudes of the mind. So if we can recognize these things, then immediately our duty is to do some effort to cultivate more positive forces to be developed in our mind and realize more happiness. This Karaniya Metta Sutta is teaching of the Buddha, which contains the direction how to develop loving kindness, how to practice loving kindness. That's why I chose this Karaniya Metta Sutta, which will help in developing positive mental forces that will ultimately lead one to become more happy. I actually prepared some from the books and internet and topics because I am not actually originally an English speaker. So I speak different Hindi language and Indian language and recently Korean in Korea. So the English is sometimes very difficult. So I don't know whether you are understanding. Okay, thank you then. So I will refer to my what I already prepared to give you more clear idea of what this topic is.
Sir, I had a question.
Yeah.
May I ask a question? I had a question.
Okay, but yeah.
I can ask later.
Yeah.
It's up to you. Can I ask now or later?
Yeah, you can ask now.
We had stances of happiness and sadness or anger. Like stances, mean that we can change happiness and anger. Your belief is that we should always have a stance of happiness whenever we see ourselves going into a negative state of mind. We should change that stance. That's what you're saying?
The first duty is to know about the mental states. You need to understand that these things lead to unhappiness. As soon as you realize, as soon as you know that this negative forces leads to unhappiness, then it's better to not just change, to eliminate totally, to uproot totally. That is the good practice. Yeah. Yes, yes, thank you. I think later on we will have enough time to discuss. So I will try to explain about this metta. Metta is a Pali word of loving kindness. Loving kindness, and Karaniya Metta Sutra is the Buddha's teaching. We say different sutras, just like Parajana Paramita Sutra, like that. So it actually is a very ancient Buddhist practice during the time of the Buddha to attain mental tranquility and also peace. So loving kindness or metta makes the mind truly all-embracing, suggested by the Pali term metta sitto vimutti. It's called in Pali. Sitto is mind and vimutti is the release or get rid of, become free. So free, this metta, this cultivation of metta, cultivation of loving kindness, free the mind from the negative forces, negative elements, all kinds of, we say in simple English language, unwholesome thinkings, unwholesome thoughts, evil thoughts, evil thinkings like that. So this practice is very important, because if we have the evil thinking in our mind, if we are not free from these unwholesome thinkings, if we think about the harm of others, bad of others, evil of others, some kind of evil negative thinkings like that, our progress in practice is the chance is very less. Yeah. So later on you will know that this metta practice is so important. In Mahayana Buddhism also, they later on developed it into the Boddhisattva Ideal, Bodhisattva practice. Bodhisattva practice is, we can say, based on this compassion, this loving kindness. Yeah. It's not just for one's own freedom or one's own happiness. It's the practice is to become enlightened for the happiness of all. Become enlightened and work for the happiness of all living beings. That is the Bodhisattva ideals or Bodhisattva practice in Mahayana Buddhism. But if we go more to the origin of this practice of loving kindness, it is, we find in the Theravada tradition very detailedly. So how you need to practice, what you have to do with this are actually very clearly explained in the Theravada tradition. So we see that as long as the mind is grief of these defilements, negative forces, and then it remains insular or patterned, it remains become obstructed, you cannot progress through the path, whatever you try to attain, because all the time the mind will be not free from this. So by breaking these bonds, metta liberates the mind, and the liberated mind naturally grows boundless and immeasurable. Only if you can liberate the mind from this negative forces, that means you cultivate loving kindness, and then it becomes, the other negative forces will be liberated from the mind. So we see the famous Buddhist teacher, world Buddhist teachers, is Dalai Lama also take the same technique actually. He all the time used to preach about compassion. So what I quote from him is, from my own limited experience, I have found that the greatest degree of inner tranquility comes from the development of love and compassion. So it's his main way of practice, I think. So he adopted a path of compassion, which is there in Buddha's teachings. And we see a famous Zen master in Korea also. He taught, in Korean language we say, 자기를 바로 봅시다. 남을 위해 기도합시다, like that. He is Venerable Seongseol, Zen master Venerable Seongseol. He says, 자기를 바로 봅시다 means know yourself, know your true self. If you know your true self, then you will become altruistic. You will not just pray or practice for your own self. You will ultimately pray or practice for all. So he says, 남을 위해 기도합시다. So it's more altruistic than one's own. So this is actually, this you can do because if you have the compassion, if you have the metta in you, loving kindness in you. Otherwise, you cannot pray for others. You cannot practice for others. You feel for others, then it's possible. It's not very easy sometimes, you see. So to give you some more ideas, the practice of cultivation of loving kindness is a Buddhist approach toward opening one's hearts to others. It is very ancient, very simple, very direct, and very effective. The Pali word metta is a multi-significant term meaning loving kindness, friendliness, goodwill, benevolence, etc., which is free from inoffensiveness and non-violence. It's the Pali commentators, they say, they define metta as the strong wish for the welfare and happiness of others. We say in Pali that's called parahita and parasukha. Para means others. Hita means for the welfare, well-being of others. Parasukha means for the happiness of others. Is the kamana is wishing and the thought to become free from all kinds of suffering and to become happy for others. This is parahita and parasukha kamana in Pali word. So it's the metta one refuses to be offensive and renounces bitterness, resentment, and animosity of every kind, developing instead a mind of friendliness, accommodativeness, and benevolence, which seeks the well-being and happiness of others. So, if we are established in metta, that is, if our deeds, our speech, our thought become established in metta, in loving kindness, then it brings concord, peace, and mutual understanding. Indeed, it's the means, it's the supreme means for that forms the fundamental tenet of all higher religions, as well as the basis for all benevolent activities intended to promote human well-being. So we know that if we know that loving kindness practice is very important, so if I refer to the sutra, how the meaning, what the Buddha taught in the sutra, so it will give you a little bit more ideas, more clear view of what Buddha actually taught. Though explanation of the sutra will take more times, But I think if I read the translation of English also, you will understand more. It will have some clear idea. The sutra name is the Karaniya Metta Sutta. Sutta is a Pali word, and sutra is Sanskrit. Metta is Pali, and Maitri is Sanskrit actually. And so this sutta is in Pali. That's why I use metta. Who seeks to promote his welfare, having glimpsed the state of perfect peace, should be able, honest and upright, gentle in his speech, meek and not proud, contented. He ought to be easy to support, not overbusy and simple in living, tranquil his senses, let him be prudent and not brazen, nor frowning on families. Also, he must refrain from any action that gives the wise reason to reprove him. So, the person who actually seeks the welfare of himself and others has this kind of qualities. He has to develop this kind of things in him. He should be able, honest, upright, gentle in his speech, meek and not become very proud, something like that. So Buddha actually give 3 different stages of this sutra. He explained how the practitioner should be in the first part, like this. He contented, he should be very easy to support. Sometimes even it's very difficult to support someone because so many things you have to support. So if he is very easily contented and very easy to support, then it's one of the very good quality of a practitioner also. Even we see in the case of monks, those monks who are supported by the lay people, if it become very complicated to support him, then lay people became fed up of supporting him like that. So he should be very simple. So just like that, a practitioner should be very simple to easily support him. Yeah. So these are the qualities in the sutra that's explained. And we see one more thing here is he must refrain from any action that gives the wise reason to reprove him. So the practitioners who are going to practice this for enlightenment or for loving kindness, actually these lines comprise all the Buddhist precepts. Because if he abstains from doing anything that the wise person means is not wise action. He should not do any action that is not very wise, not very wholesome, not good. That means, the betterment of him and others. So even a very little things, if he do that, the wise person, from the viewpoint of wisdom, we see it's wrong. So he should not do that. So that's the first part of the sutra, and the second part is, then let him cultivate the thought, may all be well and secure. May all beings be happy. Whatever living creatures there be, without exception, weak and strong, long, huge or middle-sized, or short, minute or bulky, whether visible or invisible, and those living far and near, the born and those seeking birth, may all beings be happy. Let none the chief or the cry, his fellow anywhere. Let none wish others harm, in resentment or in hate. Just as with her own life a mother seals from her own son, her only child, let all embracing thoughts for all beings be yours. So this is the way actually how we should cultivate metta, how we do metta bhavana, cultivation of loving kindness. So we see from this all living beings are included in the practice, not just for our own happiness. It's the practice we should develop in the mind. We should think, we should cultivate the loving kindness for all the living beings. Even here it's mentioned those who are born and those seeking birth, those who are ready to being born, those who are nearby us, those who are very far from us. Yeah, it's all living beings. So sometimes it's very difficult to think for all living beings. We don't usually think for those whom we don't like. And then the practice has not become universal, not become fully altruistic. So the Buddhist practice of cultivating this loving kindness include all the living beings, far and near, very teeny or very big one, elephant or very insects also even. So all kinds of living beings. So it's in the text you will find it's very detailed, not just in the human world. It's also spread to the deities, Deva world, deities, gods, humans, non-humans, all kinds of living beings, not just in the human world, in the heavenly world, and also in that world downwards, what we think in the hell, something like that. So if we can have this quality in us, then the person will transform as like a mother. Those who are mother here, maybe they will know how they protect how they love, how they take care of their child, only child. So even they are going to die to protect the only child. A mother is not hesitate to give up her life for the protection of her only child. Yeah. So in the cultivation of loving kindness, if one develops to the ultimate stage, think of all the living beings as like her only child. So the last part is cultivate all embracing mind of love for all throughout the universe, in all its height, depth and breadth, love that is untroubled and beyond hatred or enmity. As you stand, walk, sit or lie, so long as you are awake, pursue this awareness with your might. It is deemed the divine state here. Holding no more to wrong beliefs, with pursuit and wisdom, pursuit and vision of the ultimate, and having overcome all sensual desire, never in a womb is one born again. So this Metta Sutra give the clear idea to us that if we continue with only this Metta practice, loving kindness practice also, we can attain Nirvana. Nirvana is Pali word. Nirvana is we can be free from even this suffering world, life cycle. I think that's the only difference in Theravada tradition and Mahayana tradition. Later on we find Bodhisattva Ideal is to born again and again and work for the welfare and happiness of all other living beings. So in Theravada teachings we find that one can be free from the samsara, free from the life cycles, so can attain nirvana, no more born again. Because when we go through the life cycle in Theravada teachings, we find that we are not free from suffering then. When we are born again and again, we are subject to suffering again and again. So we see in Theravada tradition they mention about attaining nirvana. That doesn't mean that they are not going to preach, not going to have compassion or loving kindness for all other living beings. So this is very, very simple. If we think nowadays, we also know not if we don't refer to the sutra also, we know that what is love, what is kindness, what is benevolence, what is friendliness, what is pillow feelings. Even a very small one also know that. We also know what is anger, what is the delusions, what is the defilements of the minds in many ways. But the important thing is how much we give our effort to be free from all these defilements and free from suffering, and how much effort we give to cultivate all the positive qualities and to be more contented and more happy. So actually in the Buddhist text we see the sutras, the teachings of the Buddha. Then we find there are some reasons why Buddha taught these particular teachings, and to whom this teaching was, and who was listening to these teachings. So there is some background about the teachings of this. So sometimes the background give you more clear idea of the teachings. How during the time of Buddha these teachings come into being, and who got really benefited from these teachings. That's why I thought I will explain you about the background of the sutra also. Then it will give you more clear idea. So we see in Korea there are many meditation centers, and in Korea meditation monks, those who doing meditation, they actually do mostly 2 retreats in a year, winter retreats and summer retreats. In each retreat they sit for meditation 3 months. Actually tomorrow is the end of winter retreats. So this retreat system actually come from the time of the Buddha. Not just from the Buddha, it's the tradition of Indian practitioners. Because India, sometimes we see during monsoon, rainy season, it's so much of raining, then it's very difficult to move from one place to another. So usually then during the rainy season, the practitioners choose one place and do their practice in that particular place during the rainy seasons. So initially in Buddha's time also, Buddha did not make the rules to keep confined in one particular place and practice there. But later on, the time passing, then we find that monks find very difficult to move from one place to another and keep on with their practice during rainy seasons. So that's why he make the rules, Vinaya, in rainy seasons. And that at the time it was mentioned that 4 months in rainy seasons, Vasa we say, rain retreats. It was so important. Later on, when we ask to the monks how old you are, that means how many Vasa you become, how many rain retreats you did already. That means in a year, 1 rain retreat means if he did 10 rain retreats, he is 10-year-old monk, like that. So monks don't ask about your monk's age in Theravada countries. They ask about how many Vasa you are. So this sutra is related to this retreat system in Buddha's time. Before going to practice in the retreat for one retreat 3 or 4 months, they go to the Buddha, to the Supreme Master at that time, and they have some teachings how they will practice from the Buddha. So Buddha give the proper, topic and technique of practice to different monks before the retreat, and they go to the retreat to practice after receiving the teaching from the Buddha. So the things happen because once Buddha was living in now it's Sravasti, we say, Sravasti in UP states. There was a very big monastery. One rich person we call Anatha of Indika. He built a big monastery for Buddha, and Buddha lived there actually for around 25 years. So when Buddha was there, 500 monks from different places, they gathered and they went to the Buddha. And paying respect to him, they asked that they are going to do the retreat. So they asked they asked some teachings from the Buddha how they will practice, keep on practicing during the retreat. So after receiving the teachings from the Buddha, they went to the Himalayan areas, nearby Himalaya. So when they reached in a particular area, they saw that how it is mentioned is, after receiving instructions, they went in search of a suitable place, and in the course of their wandering, they soon found a beautiful hillock at the foothills of the Himalayas. This, according to the commentary, appeared like a glittering blue quartz crystal. It was embellished with a cool, dense green forest grove and straits of ground strewn with sand resembling a pearl net or a silver seed, and was furnished with a clean spring of cool water. The bhikkhus were captivated by the sight. There were a few villages nearby, and also a small market town, ideal as alms resort. The monks spent a night in that idyllic grove, and the next morning went to the market town for alms. So usually monks choose a place where they can peacefully do their practice for the retreats, and also they can very easily go nearby places for alms round because they have to eat and survive, to keep on practicing. So that place where they find was very suitable because it's not very in the midst of the city or in the village where there is very noisy and disturbance. So it's in the hilly area, and the place is very suitable, very nice, as it is mentioned. And then they can go nearby where they can have alms food to keep on their practice. So when the monks went up next day for alms round, the villagers, the people, they were very happy to see the monks coming in that area, and they are very good practitioners. So they invited the monk to keep on practicing there, to stay the retreats there. So later on, the monks accepted the invitation, and they then choose the very dense green forest where they can practice very calm and quietly. So usually that time the monks choose four kinds of place for their practice, as like house, some hall, something like that. We say it's kuti, and then they go to the forest, take shelter under the tree. Also practicing like that, and also they go to some caves, inside the caves. In Pali we say rukkamule sunyagare, aranye rukkamule sunyagare, grihe aranye rukkamule sunyagare. Grihe means in the temples or in some sheltered house, and also in the forest, and also under the tree, and also in the cave. So we find still, if they like to practice in the cave, if there is no any cave, then the monks used to make, let's say, Ajanta Ellora. You go in India, as you see Ajanta caves, the monks they themselves make the cave and where they used to practice. So that place was very suitable for them. So they accepted the invitation and was started to practice. But what happened is, I don't know whether you will believe or not. In Korea, it's easy for the Korean to believe. In Buddhist society, also Buddhist people also, they believe that we have some deities, some gods like that, some spirits which we sometimes cannot see. So the text, in the text it's mentioned that there are some deities in the trees, in that forest. So usually they were living on the trees. We say in Pali, Brikka Deva, so three deities. So when the monks started to practice under the tree, the deities, they thought they will practice just 1 or 2 days and they will go. So they did not bother about that. But later on, day after day, they see the monks don't go out from there. So it's their inconvenience then. If the monks practice there, they cannot live in the trees. So it's their place. Their place are occupied by the monks. So later on, this deities change into change into evil spirits and disturbing the monks, so that monks go away from there and they can live peacefully as like before. So they make some very dreadful noises, some smell that monks cannot bother and keep on practicing. So many kinds of disturbances were started by these deities. So later on, the monks could not concentrate in their practice out of so much of disturbance. So then there was some talking about them. They discuss about amongst them whether we have to keep on continuing this practice, because so much disturbance, it's very difficult to concentrate. Usually in Theravada countries, what the rules of the monks is that they cannot go outside during retreats. They cannot move here and there. The place they choose have to be they have to be there for the whole retreats. As like in Korea also, if you go to a meditation center, a Zen center, then you cannot go out from that center for 3 months. So in the same way, we see that time also, they cannot break the retreats. But that time, according to the rules, it was decided sometimes later and first and later. Sometimes you can begin the retreat a little bit earlier retreat and later retreat. So they begin the retreats very early. So they decided, if we go to the Buddha and then inform about this, and then after receiving his instruction also, we can come and do our later retreat here. So they decided and went directly to the Buddha. So Buddha that time teach this Karaniya metta sutta to them. And make them memorize totally. At that time, usually monks recite, memorize all the teaching sutras. So because of this sutra, then they return back to the place, because Buddha, through his psychic power, he saw that these monks, if they practice for the rain retreats there, they will attain arahant or enlightenment in that place. So Buddha says, you have to go back to that place again. So for that you have to recite this sutra. You have to be established in metta, loving kindness. If you have enough of your loving kindness, compassion, and if the power of compassion has spread from you, the reflection of this, then the spirits will be more friendly to you, and after that, when they see that these deities of the trees, they change the form into human, as according to the text. They come into the human form and they serve the monks throughout the retreats. They help the monks prepare for them all kinds of things. And because of that, these 500 monks, they practice very properly there, and they, at the end of the retreat, become all arahant, they say. They become fully enlightened later on. So that's the background of the sutra, Karaniya Metta Sutra. So because of these things, in Theravada tradition, what they do is, they recite the sutra when they go to a new place. Even a householder, when they go to the new house, they invite the monk and recite this as a protection from evil spirits or some kind of such deities like that. So monks also recite these sutras. Later on, Buddha explains that if you are established in the loving kindness, if you can develop this loving kindness, then you will have lots of many kinds of benefit. If you practice loving kindness meditation, you will be really benefited, and that benefit he explained in 11 different kinds. So let me tell you what the benefits are. What they say, monks, when universal love leading to liberation of mind is ardently practiced, developed, unrelentingly resorted to, used as one's vehicle, made the foundation of one's life fully established, well consolidated and perfected, then these 11 blessings may be expected. What are these 11 blessings? One sleeps very happily. Those who sleep with very comfortably, happily, for them is not very, not so much important maybe. But we see many people cannot take sound sleep, cannot have sound sleep. So this practice of loving kindness will be benefited for this sound sleeps. One sleeps happily, one wakes up happily, one does not suffer bad dreams. Sometimes we sleep and we see some bad dreams, then we suffer even in our dreams, lots of suffering. One is dear to human beings, one is dear to non-human beings, because he is wishing for the happiness and welfare of all human beings and non-human beings. Then he is liked by the human beings and non-human beings also. So he is liked by all them. We see sometimes people have a different kind of pace. You meet someone, first time you see he is not very friendly. You did not have any encounter with him, but you don't feel friendly someone we meet for the first time sometimes. So that means sometimes we see even at our first encounter, first meeting, this guy is having some kind of very friendly or loving or compassion within him. And sometimes we see we don't have anything with him, but we don't like him. Sometimes in our mind, at the first sight even, he don't look very. Some people don't look very friendly or don't have some kind of compassion in his appearance. So those who practice loving kindness, he will be liked by all, just not as human beings, but even non-human beings. The gods protect him. No fire or poison or weapon harms him. One's mind gets quickly concentrated. As I explained at the beginning, if we develop this compassion or loving kindness, some positive qualities in the mind, then ultimately we see the negative forces are eliminated from the mental states, and that means what? We can concentrate the mind very easily. Then we can very easily progress through the practice. The expression of one's face is serene. That means one, if we see at the first time also, his face is bright. Very. One dies unperturbed. Even we see nowadays there are many good development of medical science. They give some injection and one die very comfortably, as like sleeping. But usually, if you see without such kind of things, many person during his time of dying suffer a lot. So if one practice loving kindness meditation, then he is very easy to die, very comfortably, as like one goes to sleep. And even if one fails to attain higher states, one will at least reach the state of the Brahma world. We see Brahma world means it's heavenly world, we say, heavenly states. These are the benefits actually mentioned in the texts by the Buddha. So the thing is how we practice them. How we practice. Though I explained it in some way, but it's very difficult to have a clear idea from this. I don't know whether you got it. So in the text, actually, it's mentioned very clearly. One should start from himself, from the beginning. So we, as like other meditation practice, we choose one proper place, a hall, meditation hall, or a place where we can concentrate very easily without any disturbance, calm and quiet, peaceful area. Then we sit as like in other meditation practice. Then we begin to know the happy states. When we are happy, we reflect the happy states when we are happy, and then we begins from oneself, as because from the inner heart we want happiness. So we begin from us then, from our own individuals. So it's 4 different kinds of thought, wishing or developing the mind in that thoughts like that. Sometimes I hear some music they make it in Pali, maybe from Taiwan or something. They reside they play in Korea or some temples. Originally in Pali it is mentioned. Me ahang averahantu abhyapajahantu anigahantu sukhiyatanang pariharantu. It's a Pali language actually. So there is a detail of this technique of practice. So may I be free from all kinds of enmity, free from physical and mental sufferings. May I live, or may I enjoy happiness. May I become happy. So like that, you develop, in a very calm and quiet area, you just develop the mind in that way. So first you begin yourself, you practice some more time like that, and then what we do is sometimes we think of ourselves and we wish that our close one be also become happy. So next step is to the friends or close one. to the relatives. So in the practice, in the text, it is mentioned you should be, next step should be to the respected one, to the parents, to the teachers, to all the seniors. May they be free from all kinds of enmity, free from mental stress, free from physical suffering. May they live happily, may they enjoy happiness, like that. So in that way, you think of the close one, your friend, your parents, your family members, your relatives, those who are close to you. And then the neutral person also even. Sometimes our neighbors doesn't matter who they are. So the neutral one, those who don't do any harm to us, also those who are not very friendly to us even. They are called neutral one. So they, in the same way, may they be free from enmity, may they be free from all kinds of mental stress, physical suffering, may they be free from, may they enjoy happiness. Like that. And then the next stage is to our enemy, those who don't like us, those whom we don't like. So this is first stage of practice. So if we can slowly and slowly become more established in this practice, then we include all living beings. Suppose there are also many techniques how you include all living beings. Suppose in the sutra it is mentioned those who are born, already born, and those who are going to be born, may all beings be happy, like that. And sometimes those who are in the north direction, those who are in the south direction, those who are in the east direction, those who are in the west direction, those who are in the northeast, those who are in the southeast, those who are in the northwest, those who are in the southwest, those who are in the above, those who are below. That means in all the 10 directions, all living beings, may they be free from all kinds of enmity. May they be free from all mental stress, mental suffering. May they be free from physical suffering. May they live happily. Sometimes you can also practice in the same way. It's like all human beings, all non-human beings, all deities. Yeah. So these are the ways of practice. But the beginning should be from within us, from us. May I be free from, because you need to be happy first. And then you think of the happiness of others. So the practice begins from us. Yeah. I think how long I can. Okay. Okay. Thank you for listening. I don't know whether it will give you some more ideas about. Actually, if we are not having compassion with us, if we are not very loving, this metta is not within us, then and then our practice, the progress of our practice is not possible. Progress of our practice is not possible. So this practice can lead to even all the higher stages of spiritual development, even to the enlightenment. So there are different kinds of techniques, but you need to choose. But this technique is very easy to practice actually, because it begins from you, and you slowly realize that you want happiness, And in the same way, all other wants happiness. So why not then you wish for the happiness of others also? So then if you establish in your mental, if your mind become full of loving kindness, then your speech and your action follows. Your speech also will be full of loving kindness, and your action will be like that. So you will get the benefits, what I explained here, 11 kinds of benefits then. Yeah. So I hope at least you will have some idea about this kind of practice, and you will try to do at least some efforts and be more compassionate and progress through the path of practice, eliminating all your negative forces. Thank you very much. Yeah.